Today we're going to take a look at this portable power station from VTOMAN, the Flashspeed 1000. I'm not sure if it's pronounced VTOMAN, that's the best I can do. We've also got the charging panel. That's an optional extra. We'll be testing that out. It's quite a sunny day here today. I'm guessing if you're looking at this review, you already know what a portable power station is, but for those of you that don't, it will allow you to power things on the go, whether that's a camping trip, an outbuilding, a workshop maybe that doesn't have power, a shed, greenhouse, perhaps a motorhome, camper van that you're building, or maybe even just going camping and you want something to have in your tent to power all your mobile electronics. Now obviously it can do things like mobile phones, there's a laptop there. That's not particularly interesting. Any power bank can do it. You can get much smaller power banks. This in particular has 240 volt outputs. Obviously your country will vary. I'm in the UK here. So we can run normal household appliances up to 1000 watts continuous output with a 2000 watt peak. So some appliances, when they first start up, will draw a much higher wattage, much more power, very, very briefly, and then settle back down to a more sensible sort of continuous draw. Something like a Hoover might be an example of that, where it takes more power to get the motor to start spinning than it does to keep it spinning. And a Hoover is something we'll try out a bit later on here. In fact, what I'm going to try here, I've got a 1000 watt microwave over there that I'll bring over here and we'll try. I've got a 3000 watt kettle. Now that shouldn't work, but I want to try it, make sure it doesn't allow overcurrenting, so too much power being pulled through those outputs. And then we've got my Hoover, which is a shot of the minute. That's about 1000 watts as well. So things that you might actually want to use, perhaps in the event of a power outage. I live out in the country. I actually often get power cuts out here. And to be able to perhaps use the microwave to cook some food, I wouldn't be able to use the kettle to boil it for water, but I could heat water up in the microwave. And should I want to do my housework, I might be able to Hoover the house as well. Now, you can backfeed power stations like this into your mains. It's risky. You could use something called a dead man's lead, which is like a plug on each end, and it will go from here into one of your plug sockets. And I've done it because I'm not an idiot and I take the necessary precautions, which is simply turning off your main breakers, separating yourself from the grid. That way, you're basically isolated. If you want to use this in the way that I do, that allows me to run my heating, my central heating here, because there's no way to do that otherwise. Central heating isn't an appliance. So if I get a power outage in the middle of winter, when it's -2 outside Celsius, and I've got no way to heat my house, I get cold pretty quickly. So I have used it for that, and it does well. I haven't actually used this. I've got a big like leisure battery with a separate inverter on top. This is an all-in-one neat tidy package with handles that makes everything that little bit easier. This is actually more compact than the big leisure battery I use. This is an 828 watt-hour battery in here, which is actually very similar to the leisure battery that I use, but it's about half the size and about half the weight because this is a lithium iron phosphate battery in here. I won't go too technical, but basically it's a better battery for this application than say a lead acid battery. Apparently they claim over 3000 full discharge and recharge cycles, and this should still retain 80% of its capacity. They also say it can charge from 0 to 100% in 70 minutes, so that's just over an hour, and that would be using the 240 volt input for me, which will be here. Obviously, if you're in the States, 110, whatever it is you use over there. You can also daisy chain these together. There is a port here that allows you to put another one, so you can daisy chain more than one of these, or you can have this, this 1000, what do they call it? Because it's 828 watt, but they call it a Flashspeed 1000. They do a Flashspeed 1500, which is bigger. You could link that in and have as many as you please. So I suppose I'm going to have a look at the front here. So that is for daisy chaining your power banks together. You've then got a jump start option here to enable you to jump start your car, should you want to use it in that fashion. I've obviously got 3 AC outlets, 240 volts, and there's a switch for each of your outlets here. So there's my AC switch, there's my USB, and there's my DC. So USB outputs, we've got 4 USB A's, 3 of those are 12 watt. The bottom one, the blue one, is 18, and there are 2 100 watt USB-C outputs as well. We've got a DC output, which is your typical cigarette lighter type accessory port, and then behind the cover above that we have DC input if you wanted to be charging it from your car, for example, cigarette lighter style, the solar panel input, and then, as I mentioned, the mains input there as well. We've got a flap at the top here for storage, so in here I have the 240 volt mains cable for charging this and a USB-C cable. You can put whatever you want in there. There's nothing really at the sides to speak of, but if we turn it round, you will see this bar across here. That's actually a light. I think we have to press the button once to bring the thing to life. It's showing me 78% on the front, and then again for the light to come on. Yeah, it's a few different modes, brightnesses. You can have it flashing at a couple of different speeds as well. Perhaps, I don't know, you want to have a rave in the field and that's your strobe light. Probably more likely you're broken down by the side of the road and you want something to alert other drivers coming around the bend that there's a broken down vehicle. Maybe you have the flash on for that in addition to your hazard lights, or maybe you can't use your hazard lights because your car battery's gone flat. Who knows? There's a flashing light there if you want to use it. Anyway, that's this main unit. I'm going to move that out of the way and we'll have a little look at the solar panel, which means I could probably do with making a bit more space here, moving my laptop out of the way also. Now, the solar panel, I think it's 110 watts. You can see the angle it's sitting at here. It comes with like a little integrated stand that you'll see at the back there now. They're held in place. They held in place with Velcro. I'll spin it round so you can see the front, and then I'll close it up to show you what it looks like folded away. So, typical solar panel array. Everything so far feels quite nice quality. Now, obviously, the power station itself is heavy, and typically heavy things make them feel like good quality. So it's not really to do with the weight, but the plastics don't feel cheap and nasty, they feel decent. And this feels pretty decent as well. So let's flip it over and fold it as if it was closed. So we've got handles here to be able to carry it around. We've then got positive and negative connections there, and we've got the spec at the top here, product name VS110, yeah, it's the 110 watt. So working voltage 19, working current 5.79 amps. If you want to see the rest of the spec, you might be able to. There. We've then got this little pouch here, and this simply contains the extension cable that you would then plug into here and then plug into here. Now, as I mentioned, it's a nice sunny day, so I will be taking this outside, leaving it for an hour, and we'll see what percentage this is at the beginning of the hour, and then we'll see what it's at after the hour. Here in the UK, it's March, just about spring. The sun isn't at its strongest by a long way, but it will still be interesting to see exactly how much power that panel can accumulate. So for now, let's test charging or using some of my household items. As I say, showing you it charging a mobile phone or laptop is pointless. We all know it can do that. So I'm gonna get my microwave, my kettle, and my Hoover over here, and we'll try them all out now. One of the things I particularly want to test is its UPS functionality, because it is supposed to operate as a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply. The microwave should be a good way to test that, because if I put this cup of water in for, say, a minute, and then I turn the power off halfway through at the mains, because the way you do it is, as a UPS, you have your main supply plugged into your power station, and then you plug your appliance into the power station. So appliance, power station, main supply. Now, as I mentioned earlier, each of these have a switch to turn them on. So we'll press the AC switch. you hear a fan come on very briefly. That is quite a noisy fan actually, so should that be running, I guess that would only be running if you're pretty much pulling the most out of it, because charging a phone or a laptop is not going to get it hot enough to worry. Now, has the microwave come on? It has. And of course it's telling me I need to set the time. We'll ignore that and we'll just go 1 minute full power and see, first of all, whether it will actually work, because this is 1,000 watts and that is the upper limit of this. And if it does continue to work after 20 or 30 seconds, I'll cut the power at the wall and we'll see whether it continues to heat up my water. So, let's go. It's a good start, it hasn't tripped out, and it's showing me that it's actually only pulling, so it pulled about 800 watts to start with, now it's only pulling about 300 watts. That's interesting because this is on full power. Now, yeah, it's settled at about 350 watts. So let's now cut the power at the wall and see if it carries on. No. Now it's pulling 1,067 watts. Ah, what's happening here? The microwave, it is still working, but it sounds quieter, and we're now pulling 1,067 watts. What happens if I turn the power back on? Oh, it's just finished. That was interesting. So let's do that test again with the mains off. Just make sure that water's not... Yeah, the water's warm, good. So, microwave power is on high, it's as high as it goes. 1 minute. And this is with the power off at the wall. 800 watts, 1,100 watts, 1,500 watts. And now the microwave's slowing down. 1,200, 1,000. So it's settling at 1,000 watts. So what it looks like is happening is, rather than this like tripping out if it pulls too much current, it actually reduces the output to a level that it knows it can sustain. It's pretty much sat bang on 1,000 watts. You probably won't see that in the camera. In fairness, the only real negative with this that I've discovered so far is that the screen isn't particularly bright. That's definitely a negative point. I mean, I can read it fine, but it could be brighter. So the microwave is quiet. This microwave should make much more noise than this when it's working properly. So this has down-regulated the supply to this. Hopefully that's not going to damage my microwave. It is still working. And in fairness, that is hot, actually. That is hotter than it was. So the noise of the fan you can hear now, that's what it's just sounding like the whole time the microwave is on. And like the fan itself is pulling 11 watts. So let's turn the power back on again. So the UPS function definitely works. I was able to turn the power off halfway through. The microwave carried on going. But it looks like this 1,000 watt microwave pulls a lot more than 1,000 watts. It was trying to pull like a sustained 1,500. So let me just do another quick 30 seconds with the mains on. So basically it's passing it straight through. Yeah, and you can hear the fans have stayed on, it's counting down. This is how the microwave should sound in use. But when it cuts the power to make it sustainable, like this, $1,300 watts. See, now it's giving us a continuous 1,300 watts and the fan didn't slow down. Let's do another 30 seconds. What's it going to do now? 800, 900, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300. See, now it's giving us a stable 1,300 watts continuous. The microwave isn't quietening down, and it's turned off at the mains. I'll unplug it just to show you. Interesting how the first couple of times it didn't. The microwave is now functioning as it should, and we've got a continuous 1300 watt output. If water's going to be hot, yeah, it is. Ow, 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 really hot. So, let's turn that off. That was an interesting result. The first couple of times, I mean, I don't know if you'll see this on camera, but the water is steaming. So it has heated it properly, just like it's supposed to, which is great. Yeah, I don't know if you'll see it, but it is. But yeah, the first couple of times, when I cut the mains power, it reduced the output to only 1000 watts. And so the microwave ran at reduced output as well, by the sound of it. The last couple of times, as you saw, it actually maintained a continuous 1300 watts output, which is what this was kind of settling on from what I could see on the screen, and it didn't shut the power down. So that is interesting. Right, let's move. So now what will be interesting, I'll get rid of this microwave, is to see what it does with the kettle that is rated at 3000 watts. Whether it will do the same reduced power output, you know, locking it at 1000, or whether it just won't work, because 3000 watts is even higher than the 2000 watt peak that is supposed to be able to put out, you know, in a short burst. So one press of the button brings up my capacity, 72% now. Press it again, AC comes on, fan comes on briefly. So let's turn the kettle on. There's water in there, yep, and see what happens. 700, 1000 watts. So it's sat at 1058 watts. Obviously I've got the mains off now because we know the UPS function works. Can you hear that? Starting to boil. Yeah, we know the UPS function works. We just tested that with the microwave. This looks like it's doing what it did the first time, which is limiting its output to just around 1000 watts. So that's so much better than, so my DIY setup with a big leisure battery and inverter, and this is a pure sine wave inverter in here, so you can use it to run sensitive appliances. My pure sine wave inverter, I've got a 1000 watt and a 4000 watt one. The 1000 watt one, if I try and pull more than its 2000 peak, it just trips out. This really looks like it down regulates its output. So rather than saying, no, I'm not going to run your 3000 watt kettle, Carl, because this is getting hot. I can hear it starting to boil. So it's actually going to boil my water just perhaps slower than what it would do plugged into the mains. So when I said earlier, I won't be able to make a cup of tea, I was wrong. I am going to be able to make a cup of tea. It's just going to take a little longer than normal. Now this kettle is about a third full. So obviously if you're only making a small cup for yourself, you wouldn't need to fit, a third gives me 5 cups, right? If it's just me, I've got a power outage, I'm using this, I want a cup of tea, don't fill the kettle up so much, it will boil faster anyway, but as you can hear, that is boiling. Now that is not what I expected, and that is a really positive function. The ability to actually run, now obviously there might be some devices that are sensitive to not being provided the correct amount of power, but both the microwave and my kettle seem to be okay with this limit in the output. Fan's just cut on. It's the first time we've heard that. Sat there at 1058 watts. Now obviously this is pulling a lot of power. We are now down to 59% on the battery capacity, and I'll talk about that in a second once this fan and this boiling kettle turns off, but just so you can hear it, and obviously I can confirm my kettle's boiling. So let's turn that off. We'll unplug that, even though it wasn't plugged in at the mains anyway, as you well know. So let's get rid of the kettle. And finally, we'll try the Hoover, which is actually something that is within the rated spec of of the power bank. So this shouldn't create any issues at all, apart from me dropping on the floor. This should just work. Now I've got variable speed on this. I'm going to leave it all the way up because it shouldn't pull more than what this can do anyway. So again, we'll turn the AC on. Put that back in. We're at 58%. AC comes on. Little burst of fan. Hello? Oh, there we go. Yeah, and that is pulling bang on 960 watts. So just under the 1,000. Absolutely perfect. No problems there whatsoever. Kind of what we expected, really. Yeah, so that was no problem. So, should I have a power outage here now, I can boil my kettle to make cups of tea. I can run my microwave to heat up microwave meals, or I can actually do toast in my microwave. It's like one of those combination ones. As well as charging things like laptops and mobile phones should I need to. And as I say, with a dead man's lead, it will also run my TV, my sound system, and my heating, because I think combined, they all pulled about 700 or 800 watts when I checked last time. So for me, this is actually really quite a functional unit, particularly the fact that it limits the power output rather than just tripping out. So things like my 3,000 watt kettle do actually function, albeit just a bit slower. Now, the issue, of course, is its capacity and how long you could actually run some of those devices for. Now, you don't boil a kettle continuously anyway, and the same applies to a microwave. But we've gone from, what, 78% down to 57%. So that's a 20% or 21% drop in a very short space of time. We did a very brief bit of hoovering. We did maybe, what, in total 3 or 4 minutes with the microwave, and that kettle was probably boiling for 3 or 4 minutes as well. So whilst it will run high power appliances, it won't do it for very long. And the reason for this is because its capacity is only 828 watt hour. What that means is you could run something that pulls 828 watts for 1 hour and it would turn off. So, well, let's just say this, for example. We could hoover, it's about 1,000 watts it just pulled, didn't it? 950, 960. We could hoover for about 3/4 of an hour. Or with the kettle that obviously pulls bang on 1,000. I'm still curious why it let the microwave pull 1,300 on those second couple of runs. Who knows? You could run the kettle, the microwave, for maybe half an hour before it's gone flat. So that's a very, very limiting situation. Now, you're not going to want to boil water that often, but if there's 4 of you in the house or on the campsite, it could be a little limiting. But then again, you probably have a more power efficient kettle for camping. You wouldn't have a 3,000 watt one. It would be smaller, it would pull less power. And perhaps you wouldn't have a 1,000 watt microwave either. So that is just something to bear in mind. Depending what you're using, you might only get a half hour, 45 minutes worth of use out of it. If you're using it to charge mobile phones and laptops, it would last weeks, because the average laptop or mobile phone does not have anywhere near the capacity of what this battery does, obviously, because a mobile phone battery is yay big and this is yay big. So how many of these little batteries can you get in there? Kind of, you get the idea. So I think all that remains then is for me to set this up outside with the solar panel for an hour and see just how much charge we can accumulate in that 1 hour. Now, before I do that, again, just touching on how long it will run things for, if you were to be using this in an outbuilding, a shed, a container, and you've got power tools, maybe you've got LED lighting in there, maybe you've got a drill, an angle grinder, a jigsaw, something like that. They're all pretty low wattage, and if you're going out there to do some basic DIY, some woodwork or something, you know, maybe you're drilling 30 seconds at a time, maybe you're jigsawing for 5 or 10 minutes, all low wattage stuff. probably fine. And also, if you've got the solar panel out on the roof of whatever that outbuilding or shed or greenhouse is, you're getting some charge when it's sunny as well. So something this size might be okay if you only want to go out there and do limited tasks for a brief period of time. Obviously, you can buy the bigger ones, or you can daisy chain a few together if need be. I quite like the idea of daisy chaining because if you buy a really big one, it is as big as it is and it's as heavy as it is. That makes it difficult to move around. If you buy a smallish one like this, still very portable with the handles, like easy lob that in the boot of the car to take places. So, for example, I've got a small airplane, right? I took this to top up the battery on my airplane and hoover it out because I've been ill for a couple of months. Some of you might know this. And I went to go flying for the first time, and I thought there's a chance the battery might have depleted because it'd been about 2 months since I flown. I thought the battery might be depleted, so let's just take this and a battery charger, and I plugged it in, put it on charge. It turns out the battery was fine anyway. I hadn't lost anything, so that was really good. But I was able to do that because my aircraft is parked nowhere near a power supply. You know, there's nowhere for me to run an extension lead from. So this was really handy in that situation. It's like I can check the charge of my plane battery. I can give it a quick hoover out because I wanted to do that anyway, give it a good tidy up and a good look over and a thorough pre-flight before I went flying. If I've got the footage of that, I'll either put it up now or I won't. But yeah, that was something else you can do with this. So it's not just camping, it's not just power outages or using it in greenhouses, outbuildings, sheds, you know, motorhomes. You can use it for charging your aircraft battery and hoovering out your plane if you have one and if you need to. Anyway, enough of that waffle. I'm going to go stick this outside for an hour now, and then we'll come back in a while and see exactly how well the solar panel did. We're all set up in the garden. As you can see, it's a pretty sunny day. In fact, let me show you up at the sky there. A little bit of cloud, but not much. For the UK, this is a nice day, right? Ori, my cat, has come out to see us. Hello, Ori. And yeah, there's a solar panel on the floor. It's rated at 110 watts. Now, if we come over here to the screen, again, it's what I mentioned earlier. This screen is really not good to see in the sun. I don't even know if you'll see it. We're currently at 57% and we're charging at 96 watts. Again, I have no idea whether that's going to show up or not. You might just have to take my word for it because it looks, if I try and cover it, I don't know. Oh, there we go, look, 95 watts we're currently charging at. And the time here is about 11:30 a.m. So we're not even at peak sort of sunshine yet. So that's pretty good, isn't it? So we'll give it an hour. We'll come back at 12:35 and we'll see what it's gone up to from 57%. Well, we've had our 1 hour out in the sunshine. The solar panel is packed away again here. Everything feels lovely and warm from being sat outside in the sun. Out of that 1 hour, I'm going to say we had a good 15 minutes where it was overcast. And I went outside and I checked and it was charging about 15 watts when it was overcast. So we had probably 45 minutes of good solid sunshine. And that was between sort of 80 and 95 watts, depending, you know, just how sort of intense that sun really was. And then when it was overcast, around 15 watts. And we are currently at 63%. So what were we at? 57, wasn't it? So we've gained 6% charge in an hour of UK spring sunshine between 11:30 and 12:30 p.m. with 45 minutes of proper sun. So, I mean, what would that, if 5% an hour would be 10 hours to do 50% and 20 hours, yeah, you'd need like maybe 18 hours of 45-minute per hour of sunshine at springtime intensity to charge it, if my maths is correct. Because if it's 5% an hour, 10 hours is 50%, 20 hours would be 100%. Although it was 6% an hour, so we went from 57 to 63, so 6%, I mean 5%, give or take 0.5%. You know, how do we know we're exactly on 63? Well, we're exactly on 57. The maths works fine at 5%. So realistically, with this 110 watt panel, charging is slow, particularly springtime here in the UK, where the UV light isn't particularly powerful. In fact, if it was July, it would probably be, I was about to say, it's going to be twice as strong, but we were hitting 95 watts. So there isn't twice as much available from the solar panel, actually. And even 85 watts is still not bad. So if the panel was 100% efficient and made 110 watts, like in the middle of summer, or just, through slightly better technology, it would still take, 16 hours to fully charge it? We don't get 16 hours of sunlight here, obviously. But they do other size panels. They do a 220 watt panel, I noticed here. I'm just looking at the Amazon shop now. This exact setup, so the Flashspeed 1000 and the 110 watt solar panel, is currently on sale at £520. It was 800 quid when I first received this about 8 weeks ago. So that is actually a really good price. But yeah, there is another option here for £976. Oh, okay, that's not on, right. That's the same unit with the 220 watt solar panel, but that isn't discounted. So you obviously would not want to buy that right now because it's almost double the price. So what we have here is actually a really good deal right now. What else have they got on as far as offers go? 763 gets you one of these plus a secondary battery pack, giving you a total of 2,376 watt hours. No solar panel though. But that's, there'll be a link, obviously you can go and check out the various options. But what we have here in front of us right now, 520 notes. Is it good value? It's good value compared to the normal retail price. Is it practical? That's going to depend on what you want to use it for. If you want to take it on a weekend camping trip and you're only charging laptops, mobile phones, Bluetooth speakers, probably going to be fine. If you want to have it in a motorhome or on a houseboat where you're going to be using power all the time, you're going to want something bigger and you're going to need much bigger solar panels. I think what we have here really is more of a portable setup. The only time I can see this being like a static setup is if I was to fit this to maybe like an outbuilding, like I mentioned earlier, where you might have a couple of power tools or perhaps some LED lights that don't use much power or that you don't use for very long. Maybe you'll go out to your shed at the weekend and you'll have a tinker around. The LED lights will last literally days, and maybe you drill a couple of holes or you do some sawing or you angle grind something, but you're mostly there with your Bluetooth speaker on, playing some music, fiddling around on your motorbike or your project car or wherever it is where you're not really using much power other than lighting. And so that way your solar panel, left set up all the time, would recharge this over the following week, whilst you're at work and doing your normal Monday to Friday type stuff. So that would work. Or as I said earlier, this as the portable one, so you can chuck it in your car for the camping trips, for the trips to your airplane to hoover it out. And then in your shed, outbuilding or motorhome, whatever, you have the additional, power pack that can plug in. That way you've got the flexibility there. And of course on the roof of that outbuilding, shed, greenhouse, motorhome, you can have bigger solar panels. To be honest, I don't really think, aside from that scenario where you use it at the weekends and it can spend all week charging, a small 110 watt solar panel is not really much use for anything, because charging at between, let's say, 5 and optimistically 8% an hour, because we were hitting 95 watts, remember, in good sun, it just takes too long to charge it up. But you can get bigger ones. So overall, 519 quid, the current price will be a link below. I think it's a cool little setup, and I've got many uses for this. When my aircraft will eventually be in a hangar here at home, I will have this set up in their LED lights, and a little Bluetooth speaker so that I can go over there, clean, service the plane. I don't need a kettle, I don't need a microwave. I'll use the Hoover, obviously, but that'll be something I'm doing maybe, you know, once a week. So leaving this all set up, assuming you can leave this set up, it just occurred to me, this is fabric. And I would not want to leave this outside permanently in all weathers. This really is designed as a temporary take it with you and set it up scenario, isn't it? We can't leave this sat outside. Everything will go horrible. At least I'm assuming it doesn't say that this is, you know, weather resistant material, and it doesn't feel like it would be. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. If I was to be setting this up in an outbuilding, a little hangar, this might be fine to use, but I would need a solar panel designed to be outdoor in all weathers, I imagine, because this very much to me is not a fabric I would want to leave outside. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've all found this useful. As I say, there'll be links in the description, and as always, take it easy.